Yes, us. Welcome to the Kefi Life podcast. My name is Kefi L, and I'll be your guide to creating a life of Ola Kala, all is well. Together, we'll get back to the basics, and we'll explore fresh new ways to flourish in mind, body, and soul the Greek way. You can look forward to interviews, stories, essential self-care strategies, recipes, and actionable takeaway Ola Kala moments. This is going to be so much fun. Let's get going. Πάμε! Our Lexi for today is Mesimerianó, or brunch, a fun celebration concept that includes breakfast and lunch. Both of these present foods that evoke unique feelings, and what better way to enjoy an extended meal than with the best of both worlds? Mesimerianó is usually eaten in the late morning, but you know what? It can extend as late as 2 to 8 p.m. on the East Coast. Often, champagne or Bloody Marys will accompany the Feast of Portmanteau. So friends, lift your fork and raise your glass to Mesimerianó. Eleolado, olive oil, has been celebrated in the civilized world for millennia. Nearly eternal, the oil of this fruit has been more than just food to the cultures of the Mediterranean region. It's been medicinal, ceremonial, sacramental, and the foundation of great wealth and power. It is safe to say that olive oil is the ethos, the essence of Greek culinary culture. Today, the priceless and life-giving ingredients of this liquid gold can be delivered to you when you purchase your premium bottle of Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil from the region my parents were born, the Peloponnese. The coveted Koroneiki olive is extensively cultivated here in the southern part of Greece, which offers the unique microclimate needed to grow a fruit netting the utmost nutrient value for extra virgin olive oil. Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil, a boundless amount of value, high in antioxidants with anti-inflammatory properties, linked to good mood and improved mental health. Get your bottle of wellness today when you visit kefilife.shop. We have a very special guest today, and I'm sure you've seen her and heard her great hospitality ideas on TikTok and Instagram. Maybe you picked up her amazing cookbook called Celebrate with Babs. It is so fulfilling. It is so rewarding, chock full of great ideas. Babs, welcome to the Kefi Life podcast. I am really excited that you're with us today.
Oh, Kiki, it's great to be here. I am so excited to chat with you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I understand that a spontaneous experiment with social media led to your wild success with Brunch with Babs. Tell us about your journey from teacher to everyone's favorite grandma. How did your second chapter get started?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first I have to say I didn't plan it. And I was retired from teaching, and then I became, a babysitter for my kids, for my grandkids. And my daughter, Elizabeth, my youngest, was due to have her third, started the quarantine. I moved in with her to help her with her 2 toddlers at the time. And one afternoon, my daughter was already on social media. I was on nothing. Long story short, one afternoon, she said, "Mom, I think you should try TikTok." I said, "Liz, I think not. There is no way I'm going to do that." And anyway, your kids, they don't take no for an answer, right?
Right.
So anyway, yes. I made, Kiki, I made a chicken recipe that my grandmother used to make, very simple. And we used to call it like her Greek chicken. It was like lemon, oregano, olive oil, garlic. I made this one sheet pan meal kind of thing. And the rest is history. I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the response.
Isn't it interesting how people connect to relationships and family? And what you mentioned was your daughter, and you mentioned your grandma. And I think that plays so much into what we're missing today in the world. What have you discovered, Barb or Babs, about these connections, especially during COVID and the lockdown? Let's talk a little bit about the human connection and sharing and comfort, which you are so good at doing.
Well, again, I just being a mom and a grandma, but the heart of a teacher, I was overwhelmed by the response that I got from that first recipe. And it was a very unsettling time. People were home. Their offices were closed. Their schools were closed. So people were on the internet, and they were like, maybe they had now time to try cooking that they never had time to before. Plus, they were missing family. And like you said, that human human connection. So here was this older lady who was going about life in a normal way. And there was this comforting effect. Like, oh my gosh, I get so many, even today, Kiki, I get so many messages of, you remind me of my mother. You're the grandmother that I have been missing. So there, even through that medium, the internet, it does. There is that social human connection that people, especially at that time, were yearning for, the missing of family.
And there's something about food and how food and family come together and make people feel comfortable and safe. And you happen to be doing it all in the second chapter. You're thriving in life. And that's what I love to do, is talk to people on Kefi Life that have embraced that notion of, well, as my mom used to say, I'm going to quote her, I'm going to live until I die. So we don't have to go through, we don't have to go through life.
Yeah, that's great.
Is that good?
Yeah, that is fabulous. I'm going to live until I got to remember that one. That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to live until I die, because we have to move forward, not stagnant, but enjoying life and celebrating life. And so much of it does have to do with cooking. So for you, I'm curious to find out about your background with cooking. Have you always loved to cook? You mentioned chicken, olive oil, and oregano. Immediately, you took me back to a place in Greece that I just adore. And I love that recipe, by the way, chicken riganato.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So I come from an Italian Lebanese background. And so both of those cultures, Mediterranean cultures, food is sacrosanct. It's holy, right?
Yes.
The way you tell people you care for them, you love them, is through food. You feed them. The biggest, if you ever came to my house for dinner, or my grandparents' house, and you weren't eating, it was like, oh, come on, manja, have more. They were always, the food was like in your face, right?
Yep.
And the more you ate, that was a way of reciprocating that love, right?
Definitely.
Their love was to feed you. Your love was to eat. So that was my background. Now, my recollection of my first recollection of food would be my mother. We lived very close to my grandparents when I was growing up, either in the same apartment building or like a block away. And so basically it was my mother, my grandmother in the kitchen hustling. They'd finish one meal and the next thing they would say is, what are we going to have for dinner? So food was the center of our lives. My Lebanese background, I didn't know my grandparents. They passed away way before I was born. So it was a little different. I love Middle Eastern food. I mean, it is the absolute healthiest, And so my aunts taught my mother how to make some Middle Eastern dishes. And she would make, the stuffed grape leaves, the sfiha, lots of different Lebanese food for my dad. But it's my grandparents and my mother, my mother, who probably established this love for food in me.
So you have that traditional aspect that links you to cooking, which I too share that with the Greek culture. And you mentioned Middle Eastern food, and I had the great privilege to go to the Holy Land last year, and the food, the Middle Eastern food, the olives, the chickpeas, the oil, the pita, the breads, the sharing. It was just, I hope you can get there, Babs, because the food is really dynamic, or just delicious over there.
I would love to one day, Kiki. It's on my to-do list. I guess I say my bucket list, right?
Barb, we're talking to Barb Costello of the very famous Brunch with Babs. Barb, you have 3 million followers on TikTok and over 2 million on Instagram. What do you think it is in your mind that your followers love about your account? Because it's really, really popular. And by the way, my favorite post to date is the one on the cleaning the pillows. I love that one.
When you do before and after, oh my gosh, right? That's like a showstopper. It's like, oh my, I've been sleeping on all that filth. Heaven help me, right?
Yes.
I think, Kiki, in answer to your question, I think it's probably people are looking for real people. And I think it's authenticity, like I'm just a real person, like everybody else. I go through life just like everybody else. And who you see on my account is who you're talking to right now. I don't have a different persona. And I think people are very sensitive to that. They pick that up. And that's a comment that I get a lot. I love you're real. I love your authenticity. And that's who I am. I don't put on it, I am who I am, online and off.
And you're fantastic in both. And I think that's why I agree with you. I think that's why people really gravitate towards you, because they can believe what you're saying. So if they're in a slump or they're like, hey, I want to feel good like Babs feels, I can trust her because she's so genuine. And that's really what you're doing right now as you're thriving. Not only are you helping yourself and having a great time, but you're really helping others. That's got to feel so rewarding.
That's what kind of keeps me going, Kiki. When I first started, I really did think it was one and done. I posted a recipe. Everybody liked it. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. And then my daughter said, Mom, have you read your comments? I'm like, what comments? What are where are those? Oh, listen. And then she would read these comments and they really blew me away.
Can you share some of them? Can you share, give us an idea of what some of those comments were that's really surprised you?
Okay, yes. So there's one I mentioned on more than one occasion, and it was about a person who was living in Brooklyn at the time. And as they described it, they lived in a dungeon apartment in Brooklyn without a kitchen.
Okay.
Now, obviously, you still could get food, like maybe Uber Eats or something was still delivering food. I don't know. But and they were saying I was the one bright light in this period that kept them going. They would so look forward to Bab's posts, my little videos, that they were encouraged them, gave them that, the energy to go through another day like this. So that was really heavy, right? Yeah. Then there was another one about a young man, I think, who lived in Nashville, who had broken, a relationship that had broken up, and he was extremely depressed and in a very dark place. And he had said, I got him through that period.
And what's nice about that, not nice, but really it's very fortunate for him, is that you were giving him good information. You were inspiring him and lifting him. And, and food just has a way to do that. I mean, you are America's most beloved grandma, but you're also just a really genuine, authentic person. And back to the subject of food, is there a food? You have so many recipes, and I'm going to invite you back for another interview where we'll get really into the cookbook. But for the sake of this interview and thriving in life and being with family, is there a meal that your children enjoy with you and your husband? Is there a meal that you just love to make and share with them?
Well, from the cookbook, I will, and know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but people will always ask me, what's your favorite recipe in the cookbook, right? And as you say, food has memory. There's a memory component in food. Like when you're eating something that you've had somewhere else, you're like, oh my gosh, like you mentioned the chicken oregano, right?
Yes.
Back to Greece. So my kids, their favorite and our family favorite with the most memories is Christmas morning, our overnight breakfast casserole that my kids would it meant Christmas. It meant family. It meant presents opened and gathering around and starting Christmas Day together over that simple breakfast casserole. And now my kids are grown. I'm soon to be, God willing, the grandmother of 9.
Wow.
Their 9th one is due any day. Now I've got my kids making that for their families, Christmas morning. So it's like it's a tradition in our family for sure.
And that tradition now probably bonds them. You have 3 children, right?
I have 4.
Oh, 4 children.
I have 2 boys and then 2 girls in that order. Yeah.
2 boys.
But yes. And now they make the casserole for us. We'll go over Christmas morning and, it's like the casserole's in the oven. The kids are opening gifts. You're like, oh, I've seen this somewhere before.
That's really nice for them to now treat you and your hubby to a beautiful meal and, just continue on that tradition. And you've taught them well. You have really taught them well. Babs, in our remaining moments for this interview, because I would love to have you back if you'd be willing to accept that invitation.
Oh, 100%. I love talking to you, Kiki. You know that.
I love it. I love it. I love it more. I love talking to you more. In our final moments of this interview, what would you say to someone who is talented, but kind of stuck in a job that doesn't allow their creativity and the opportunity to thrive personally? Because you are thriving, my friend.
My daughter, who got me into this, really, I couldn't have done this without my daughter because, as I said, I was on no social media. But she was actually working for a pharmaceutical company at the time, and she had this creative side of her that wasn't being tapped into. And she actually took a plunge and then started social media and then got me on board. And here we are today. I would say, you don't want to keep your bread and butter job. You do want to keep your bread and butter job, that even though you might not be this isn't self-fulfilling at the moment. But if you can do that and then try what you love in a part-time way on the side, whether it's, on this venue, on the internet, or whatever you enjoy, like your heart's, enjoyment. If you could just start that part-time and see where it goes. And you never know where life is going to lead you unless you do, put your foot in the water. But depending upon your situation, as I said, maybe you do it in increments, but you give it a try, because why not? Life is a journey, and why not explore all the different venues that are out there that you think you have this calling for.
Outstanding. It excites me as well, just hearing those words. And, it's kind of going back to what you said in the beginning, which is you could never believe that this was not planned. The success was not planned. It was wild. It was spontaneous, but it was meant to be. Barbara Costello of Brunch with Babs. What a delight it's been. And our final question, I ask all my special guests, and you are indeed a special guest. Please answer this question. In my life, I've learned that.
Kiki, I think I have learned to let go and let God, because his plan is always way better than anything I could have ever thought of.
Amen, sister. Where can people find you? Where can people find you online? I want them to find you everywhere.
Okay, so online, if they're on Instagram, it's Brunch with Babs on Instagram. And I'm also on TikTok, Brunch with Babs. And I think I'm also on Facebook and I think YouTube as well. Just kind of getting started on those venues.
Okay, Brunch with Babs. And next time, actually, we're going to air the next interview the following week. We're going to talk about the cookbook and some holidays that are coming up. Celebrate with Babs. But in the meantime, you have yourself a fabulous day. And thank you again.
Oh, Kiki, thank you. Have a great one. Bye.
Stay right there. Up next, your weekly takeaway to keep it all as well. Hola Kala.
This Hola Kala moment brought to you by the law offices of Liston and Centillus. Ranked number 1 by the leading lawyers network since 2010, taking care of all your real estate needs.
During today's interview, Babs shares the connection between food and memory. Her point is well taken when you think of foods that you ate as a child, or you remember a meal that your parent used to prepare you. In my case, I'm missing my dad a lot these days, so I'll go back to his kitchen and I'll make myself his famous marullo salata. It's one of my best salads, and it blends my favorite herbs, dill and parsley. The dressing, lemon juice, Kefi Life extra virgin olive oil, oregano, salt, and pepper to taste. It's simple, it's tasty, not to mention good for you. Check out the show notes on my podcast page of KefiLife.com if you'd like the full recipe. Hola Kala, all is well when you eat the food you love and you love the food you eat.
Kiki Vale is the founder of Kefi Life. She is passionate about whole person wellness and living a fulfilled life. Her Kefi Life podcast is created to simply and naturally help you harmonize the mind, body, and soul the Greek way. Visit KefiLife.com, at KefiLife365 on Instagram, and check out Kiki Vale on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Join us again next time for more positive energy and inspiration on Kefi Life.